Did you randomly find yourself immersed in Michael Jordan's mostly forgotten baseball interregnum between Bulls three-peats, watching him struggle with minor league breaking balls while ignoring the sport that made him a transcendent star? Were you lassoed into Looney Tune land as aliens tried to kidnap Bugs Bunny and friends to work in an intergalactic theme park? Were you witness to a basketball game becoming the means by which the Looney Tunes and ultimately the NBA's future would be decided? If so, you may have just happened into the Unkind Rewind, where we saw the 1996 movie Space Jam.
Thrill me.
I'm gonna name you Coda. You get a name too, Podo.
I got good news and bad news, girls. The good news is your dates are here.
What's the bad news?
They're dead.
You too? You got a boner too? Blue Steel.
Greetings from the city, featured on Bill Murray's hat in this film, where I, Josh Dugan, have spent the last 24 hours ruminating on Michael Jordan's career in baseball. Beaming in mere blocks from the Madison Square Garden, where he's been closely guarding the talent of the New York Knicks from alien invaders, is my co-host, Sean McGrath. Have you been keeping the trench-coated aliens away from our celebrated athletes, Sean?
Yeah, shout out there to, was it Patricia Hayden?
Yeah, Patricia Heaton and Dan
Patricia
Castellaneta.
Heaton and Dan Castellaneta out of nowhere.
Yep.
In that scene at Madison Square Garden. I don't know if they were like
They weren't
big enough
established. Well, I mean, Dan
names.
Castellaneta was obviously, already the voice
Was
of
she
Homer.
was she on Everybody Loves
but
Raymond?
I don't
at that
believe
point?
that was on yet.
Okay, but yeah, from the setting of the basketball game that they kind of shot.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm confused about all that, but we'll get to it. Yeah, New York City, it's doing fine. I haven't seen any aliens in trench coats. A lot of exhibitionists on the subway in trench coats, but
Sure.
no aliens.
Never changed New York. Bouncing in this week is our special guest. Fresh from
Bouncing.
a presser in a parking lot that is definitely not the Forum, Maayan Olshan. Thanks for jamming with us,
Hi,
Maayan.
thanks for having me. Yeah. I'm bouncing in.
He's
I love
bouncing
it.
in.
Yeah. Maayan, why don't you tell the listeners who were not lassoed through the hole of a par 3 and pulled into Looney Tune land, which apparently is under Earth's crust. But those people, why don't you tell them what they missed last week in the Q's and T's episode with you, and give us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah, so my name is Maayan. I'm a parkour coach, and I go by Coach Mayo. That's my nickname that everyone calls me. And I grew up being a huge fan of cartoons of all types. SpongeBob, honestly, at my top tier. And then I very well date myself as a millennial. And Space Jam just has sat in my mind. I've realized so much throughout my adulthood, as we talked about last time, when that pivotal moment where I was at a county fair and had a dreamlike experience running through the crowds to make a single shot to win a Michael Jordan jersey, because apparently that's the epitome of my childhood coming true, that I could be that little Michael Jordan at the beginning of the movie who says, one day I'll be in the NBA and then I'll play baseball like you did. And I guess I made it to the NBA by winning that jersey.
Yeah. And AA in minor league baseball. All right. So before we get too far into the episode, where can listeners find you, Maayan?
So I mostly post parkour content and coaching, tutorials, things like that, just cool flips and moves on Instagram at coach_mayonnaise, spelled just like the word mayonnaise. And then on
and like the word
TikTok,
coach too, I bet, right?
coach is spelled a little differently. No,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's correct. And then On TikTok, I do mindset and life coaching inspiration stuff at o.maayan.o. My name is Maayan.
Now, is the mayonnaise is it serving a dual purpose? Like, do you also, in addition to it being like your first name, do you also have an affinity for mayonnaise?
I think that I have manifested this affinity by becoming called Mayo.
Okay.
I started associating with it, and then I did like it before. As a kid, I did not like it.
Neither did I, but I
But
do now. Yeah.
I have another pivotal experience of being really hungry at Disneyland and not wanting to wait in a long line for food. So I go to the salad bar at the burger place and I just take lettuce, tomatoes, and onions, which are freely available, and just mayonnaise all over it.
Damn.
And then I just also slipped in an extra mayonnaise packet and just ate that later on by itself.
Did you just make a hand salad?
Yeah, it was like a protein style burger
Okay.
at In-N-Out.
Okay.
This is some resourceful foraging that he's doing here.
That's right.
We had a thing when I worked at a movie theater as a 16-year-old called the free sandwich, which is what we would make with everything that wasn't inventoried at the snack bar. So we couldn't use the hot dogs, but we could use the hot dog buns. We couldn't use the nacho cheese cups, but we could use the tortilla chips. So we would take a hot dog bun, line it with tortilla chips, put popcorn down the middle, squirt of butter, some seasoning salt, crunch it together, and call that the free sandwich.
That is the first ever free lunch I've ever actually heard.
I got my lifetime quota of carbohydrates during my 9-10 months working that job.
It is funny how our culture, carbohydrates are like pennies, but protein is like $100 bill.
Yeah. Well, you're getting some protein with the mayonnaise.
That's right.
Joke's on them. Well, Josh, we want to talk about our Space Jam connections here?
Yeah. So as I mentioned last week, I saw this one a few years ago for the first time.
What was the impetus for that?
I watched it because I was guest on a podcast doing sports movies. This was in some bracket. We'll get into my feelings about this at some point.
All right.
I'm
Well,
sure.
podcasts being the enabler for you to watch this movie strikes again. This was brand new movie to me. Clips here and there over the years, but nothing like a start to finish viewing. Never saw it. Of course, I heard about it. Everybody heard about it, but I was pretty fresh going in.
Okay.
Like Frank Costanza, he likes to go in fresh.
And Maayan, when you submitted the list, I don't think you recalled that you had seen this, and then when we're recording, you realized, oh shit, you probably had seen it somewhat recently. But you'd seen it like one time in the last, like, say, since you moved to LA.
Oh, definitely since I moved to LA, yeah.
But like you've
once.
just seen it like one time.
Yeah.
Okay. So, getting into the questions we asked you last week, we're going to throw to a clip here. After admitting that you thought you had actually seen this somewhat recently and wondering aloud if it disqualified the film from consideration for the podcast, you answered the question as to what you remember the plot of Space Jam being as follows.
Yeah, so it's Michael Jordan gets sucked into a golf hole and he ends up in Looney Tune land. And then these aliens from a tiny planet, I think they're Martians even, they come searching for his talent and they take on all the talent from the best NBA stars and challenge Michael Jordan and the Looney Tunes to a basketball game. And they turn into monsters that they have to somehow beat. And it's the tale of them beating the Monstars.
So the talent is some kind of harvestable energy source or something?
Indeed. They are
like
these,
Michael Jordan's midichlorians?
Yes. They what's it called? They take a basketball and then the basketball harnesses, just like the soul gets sucked out of them. It's this like cartoonish sludge. that is pulled out of them mid basketball games, and then they just fumble around the court because they've lost their secret sauce.
It's pretty good.
Were there any plot machinations that surprised you on rewatch?
Yeah, so the first being the biggest one being the terms of the deal of the basketball game, and then the halftime reworking. So as the game begins, it's first of all, the way Bugs Bunny negotiates with the little aliens. I totally forgot about his mind manipulation to say, well, you haven't read the rule book for alien invasion. And they're like, what? It's in the handbook. So some classic Looney Tunes trickery there. So they barter to get into a basketball deal because they realize these aliens are tiny. So it's the perfect way to win. And then they obviously turn into giants. And then at halftime, Michael Jordan is now negotiating for his life as a slave on Moron Mountain. Not
tough
not Mars, but Moron Mountain. And that scene is definitely, like, I'm jumping ahead here, but that scene was the most surprising, like, satirical social commentary of what it means to be a professional athlete and just sign your soul away to be people's plaything.
Yeah.
I mean, throwing the black man in chains during a cartoon montage there, I was like, holy cow. And yeah, I mean, again, the servitude of signing autographs for the rest of your life. I love the one-on-one where you have to lose to like rich kids for the rest
and Danny
of your
DeVito
life.
being the voice there was just the cherry on the top.
Now, did anyone else find it amusing that Michael Jordan, who, conspiracy has it, was stepping away from basketball because he was gambling? Does anyone else find it kind of amusing that when he's supposedly on his sojourn from basketball, that was to, again, it's a conspiracy theory, but there's smoke. There's smoke behind this. I mean, he is a, big gambler.
Oh, even in the golf scene, he can't stop gambling.
Yeah. But when it comes to his future, the thing that he does while he's, again, away from basketball, maybe or maybe not because of gambling, that his solution to this is to gamble more.
Is to raise the stakes.
Yes.
Right?
He doubles down. Yeah.
There's a compulsion in Michael Jordan that's evident kind of throughout this movie. Yes, the competitive nature, the gambling addiction, the need to kind of sell at all times. I mean, the unveiling of the Space Jam shoe in this was like the prettiest money shot. I don't know if you remember, I remember kids having that black and white Air Jordan.
I don't think they got him in La Crescent.
Yeah, I mean, the kids who wanted to show off that mom and dad had money had those shoes. And it gets like one of the biggest reveals in this movie when he steps on the court for the first time to play the aliens. But yeah, all those things are really, really evident about Michael Jordan's personality in this movie, kind of throughout.
What personality comes through?
I mean, obviously an indefatigability. What's the word there?
Yeah,
he will not lose.
Indefatigable. God damn it! I'll give up. I'm not even. I can spell it.
Everybody knows the word we're going for. But yeah, this guy, he doesn't want to lose.
Yeah,
he's even during his, as Josh put it, his sojourn, playing golf against Bill Murray and Larry Bird, like he needs to win there. And a very understated reaction to a hole-in-one.
Which he says is his first.
Right, that's his first hole-in-one.
If you were as nuts about golf as we all know Michael Jordan is, if that was your fucking first hole-in-one, you'd lose your shit.
Yeah. I don't know the magnetism of a golf ball. The first time where I was like, I don't know if that.
I don't know if the science checks out here, guys.
I don't know if the science checks out.
Yeah,
kind of
but there's
throughout
also
this
like
movie.
a large magnet through like Earth's crust to do
Right,
this.
right.
So I think
There's a
we're
lot of
also
metal in the Earth's
in
crust.
Looney Land. I think the context has been set.
I mean, the iron content of the core is pretty high.
Yeah.
Actually, if I can bring up, this was one of my favorite things that I recognized watching again is and this brought up what's that movie, Roger Rabbit, where they take cartoonish antics into the 3D world. So when Bugs and Daffy are going to retrieve the shorts, they're creating a tunnel in the ground as if it was a cartoon. And then they go underneath the carpet in the hallway. And it's just like that is a very clever use of the Looney Tunes antics to bring it into a cinematic place.
Yeah, it is a Roger Rabbit world where cartoons can still use their logic in the human world. And people are kind of in awe, but like it doesn't stop. Like, for example, when the alien ship kind of comes cruising by where the Barons are playing.
Yeah.
Like life still goes on for those people. It's not a front page article that a cartoonish spaceship just zoomed past this minor
landed
ball
in the field.
Well, that was at the end, but it first went through the stadium.
Yeah.
And then crashed through a parking lot at like a shopping center or something.
Now, it seemed like there were some things you'd sort of flipped around or not quite remembered fully. Was this surprising to you since you thought you might have actually seen it more recently than you initially thought? Like, for instance, the aliens, you'd remembered their like talent, the basketball players' talent being the sludge, but it was really the aliens turned it into sludge and went into the basketball players and then like stole their essence that way.
That is true. Yeah, I did not. I remembered that scene, but it didn't necessarily associate that they were the sludge. But it was exactly what I pictured the scene. I just hadn't captured it like that in my head. Yeah.
Were there any other things that when you watched, you're like, oh, I didn't remember this way? Anything that sticks out?
This isn't a not remembered this way, but it was so funny to me. And I did remember it right before it was about to happen. I was like, oh yeah, this is great. When he's reaching down to grab the ball from the hole-in-one that he got before he gets lassoed into the hole. And Bill Murray just, probably the funniest line. It was like, give me that camera. What's in that camera? And don't point that at me, and close the shutter.
Again, sort of this acceptance, like with the people at that stadium, of like, that's really weird, but like, let's move on with our day.
Yeah.
Like Michael Jordan just got lassoed down a golf hole, but like, then the conversation returns to like him and Bird, and maybe like Murray joining the NBA, which I know he's a pretty big NBA fan.
Oh, big time. Well, big time, and there was also, I suppose it makes as much sense to talk about this now as any time. There's a huge influence of commercials on this movie, and Bill Murray was in a series of commercials where he was trying to become an NBA star at this time.
So this ties into that. Maybe there was a lot more of people kind of chuckling in their seats when that was happening, because they knew of that like concurrent Murray plotline. I think the biggest thing, though, to kind of acknowledge about the commercial aspect of this movie, I mean, we have a commercial director behind this.
Not the first time we've had that on this show.
Not the first time we've had that. Joe Pytka did a huge swath of Pepsi commercials, a lot of commercials with celebrities, and he gets the reins to this thing probably, I don't know, maybe at like the urging of the NBA or at the urging of Michael.
Well, because he had done the Hair Jordan commercials.
Okay, so he had done Hair Jordan. Let's give a little background on that because
Yeah, that's where this movie is kind of birthed from.
yeah,
There were a series of Super Bowl commercials in 92 and 93 where Michael Jordan, and these were crazy expensive, like at the time, $1 million commercials that took like 6 months to be completed, because Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny were in these commercials together.
HARE.
Yeah, hair. Yeah, HA. No, not IR. That wouldn't make any sense with Jordan or Bugs. So they were in these 2 Hair Jordan commercials that were wildly popular at the time, and then
He was probably betting in those too.
oh, for sure, yeah. And then so Ivan Reitman and a Nike exec were on a plane together and decided they should do like use that as a launching pad to make a movie. Pitka was actually brought in kind of late on this, and there's some discussion
Is this like some
that
Toby Hooper Spielberg shit.
yeah,
like
yeah. There's
Reitman?
some discussion that Ivan Reitman kind of was the director on this, and Pitka was the person overseeing the sort of animation integration into the film. But
Because Reitman is mentioned or listed as a producer.
Yeah.
Along with, I don't know if you guys clocked that, David Falk,
oh, is that
the high-powered sports agent
okay?
for Jordan
Yeah.
at the time. I think I can't remember the name of his label that he began for representation, but man, do you know this name, David Falk? He was like this massively powered sports agent.
Well, because
Jordan.
of Jordan. I mean, Jordan.
Yeah.
Jordan was the #1 spokesperson in the world at this point. Like, he's bringing in $50 million a year from just endorsement deals.
Yeah,
not
even
counting
playing basketball.
not counting Nike Air either. Not counting the Air Jordan. Like, that branding is entirely separate from that. Like, just from like McDonald's ads and
Gatorade, all the
Gatorade,
stuff
yeah.
that Wayne Knight mentions, right? Wheaties, McDonald's, Gatorade. He says it in that line of like, "Hey, Mike, let's go do this and that and this and that and this and that." He's mentioning all of Jordan's labels, all of his sponsors.
Hanes, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so much of this movie is a commercial.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that what the secret sauce or the secret juice, I mean, isn't that kind of alluding to a Gatorade
Right,
at some
yeah.
point when eventually it's revealed?
But I guess they
revealed to be
couldn't
water.
get Gatorade cleared. Also,
Very
I mean, it's late 90s, or mid to late 90s, and you know the obvious Bugs does the like roided up whatever thing when he takes the secret sauce or whatever.
Yeah, I would wonder if I did a little bit of research before coming on here. I might have been able to bring you the news that I'm guessing that the guys in this movie, the NBA players, are David Falk guys. I think that he's getting a little bit of money from each of these guys in this movie, instead of these guys having like say a legit, TV and film agent. David Falk was representing them.
Yeah, Larry Bird would
Patrick-
have been. Larry Bird was already in movies, but
Larry Bird's huge, right? But like Ewing, Bogues, Larry Johnson, and Sean Bradley. Like,
yeah, I know.
I don't know if this struck you guys the same. Like, he's the one guy that doesn't fit here, and it's not because he's white.
It's it's because
personally-
he's not that good. Yeah.
I thought it would have been because he stylistically fills out what the Monstars should look like. That's kind of that was my going on in the back of my head. Of like, they need a diverse, loony looking thing. If they were all similar looking, well framed people,
Is
they
he
needed a
kind
short
of
guy, a tall guy.
the stoner one then?
Yeah.
Like, do they all kind of like represent?
Is the Mormon
Right, like-
is the Storm and Mormon the stoner? Yeah,
Well, yeah, he does make that joke about what is it
being
like?
on a mission
I might have to
in the jungle.
Yeah, go back to Mission in the Jungles. But yeah, Sean Bradley. I mean, this is a real golden age too of centers. You have Patrick Ewing, but you also have Alonzo Mourning. You have Shaq. You have Mutombo. I think at this
You do.
era,
Hakeem still playing.
Akeem is still playing. I mean, there's some really, really big names.
David Robinson, still playing.
David Robinson's probably wouldn't agree with the subject matter, given his religious background. But yeah, it's so strange to see Sean Bradley in this.
Yeah.
Did not have a marketable energy to him in the way that the other guys did.
No.
Or the stats to back it up.
Maybe they're just really trying to all-tense this movie, and they're like, this movie's going to be fucking huge in Utah.
There was a scene where, like, when they started losing their abilities, and we saw them kind of like jiggle, like, you know, not any of them. Maybe Barkley has a little bit of an idea on how to act,
Yeah.
but like the other guys don't. Bogues, I thought, was actually okay.
Yeah, Bogues is fine.
But they're losing their abilities on the court, right? They can't catch a ball. They're shooting air balls. And there's that scene of Sean Bradley, like, walking down the court. And I was like, that's kind of a Sean Bradley highlight. Like, that's him at his best.
Yeah.
Like, if you've seen Sean Bradley play.
Yeah, basically all blocks and nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, 7'2", 7'3", maybe? He was big. Yeah, was he 7'4"?
7'6".
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, so I think that there was...
Because they wanted George Mirasan.
Oh.
But yeah,
okay.
it fell through, so.
Yeah, well, Mirasan actually looks a little bit more like that stoner alien when he's steroided up.
And he can act.
Yeah, and win one for the kids.
Yep.
Famous commercial.
Sorry, kind of leaving Maayan out on the weird 90s basketball talk that he doesn't have a frame
I
of
definitely
reference for.
did not watch basketball in that era. I was four.
When did you kind of come into basketball? Like, what would you say that you first became interested in the actual, like, NBA and, like, new?
I never was. That's been my thing my whole life. I've loved sports. I followed my team. I didn't follow them. I would cheer them on if they got to the championship.
Yeah.
But I idolized great players and I played the sports. I was never a stats guy and I was never a leagues guy.
Interesting.
I didn't follow.
So this movie, so much of this is like these players you don't really have a connection to at all when you see these guys in Space Jam.
Those guys were my connection to the NBA, yeah.
Okay. Through this movie, though.
And not to the NBA, really, just like a picture in the background. That's what the NBA is.
Did you get the reference when Larry Johnson talked about his grandma?
No.
Okay. That's another commercial thing. He had this series of grandmama commercials where he was in drag as a grandmother, like dunking on people. That was his whole weird. The 90s were fucking weird, man. But yeah, he was grandmama, and so that was all another reference to commercials that, if you're coming to this 2 or 3 years after the movie came out, you have no fucking frame of reference for.
Yeah.
Now, did you know that Jordan did walk away from basketball after the first three-peat to try to play baseball when you were watching this as a kid? Or did you think that was just part of the movie?
As a kid, I didn't know the history of Jordan.
Okay.
I could tell that he was clearly retired because he was doing baseball. That was in the plot itself. And then I actually just realized now at the end that was him coming back. And it was probably real shots of him coming back or something.
It's not the right
like
game, but yeah.
Yeah. So...
Yeah, he came back against Indiana.
Yeah.
His first game back.
Yeah.
And yeah, this game he's playing the Lakers, I think. But they do have... There is a weird thing where he does... I think they reshoot.
No, he comes back and they're playing the Magic because it's Shaq. Shaq's running up court. I remember. I just remembered the shot. Shaq's technically in this movie, but as a player.
As an Orlando player.
Yeah, as an Orlando Magic, yeah.
Okay, because I think he goes to LA in what, 96 or 7?
Well, Shaq and Penny are still teammates at this point.
Okay. But there's the press conference in the beginning when he's retiring. I think they reshoot that, right? Like it looks real.
It looks real, but that's shot for the movie. That's not.
Yeah, that's shot for the movie, but that's exactly kind of how it looked.
Yeah.
In real life, was that he stepped away from basketball.
We
don't
didn't
know
get
when the
that
da-
like longer master shot of it, but it was the setup.
Yeah. And then he does the baseball thing, and as Josh says, there is a conspiracy that he was going to
Gambling on
basically
basketball.
was going to be thrown out of the sport or maybe suspended for a year.
Now gambling on basketball when you're winning titles is a little different than gambling on a sport when you're not, because I think I not that different, but like Jordan's an insane, like the most competitive person ever, maybe. Like he's a fucking freak. So like I don't think there's any way that Jordan's ever betting on himself to not win because he's such a fucking psychopath.
No. Yeah. He's going to bet thousands of dollars on
hundreds
throws,
of thousands of dollars
on throwing a quarter against a wall. As Maayan, did you see The Last Dance? How much of that did you take in?
No, I didn't. I've seen parts of it, and I've wanted to watch it, but
It's great.
It's not at the top of my list, but
It is very good.
It's really
and
good.
It really kind of colors so much in for me when watching Space Jam.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I saw parts of, Jordan's interviews and getting to know him and expressing things he's done, and it was like,
He takes things personal.
Oh God. He still holds grudges 25 fucking years later. Like it's nuts.
He and a big distinction here. He doesn't take it personally, Josh. He takes it personal.
Yes.
That could not be more of a trademark line from Michael Jordan. But let's get back to the movie.
Yeah. So was it surprising how much of the real world time spent following Michael Jordan's athletic exploits were committed to the sport he wasn't particularly good at, Maayan?
no, yeah, I felt pretty impressed that this basically kids show spent so much time just in the adult world talking. I mean, which is good for the audience, so parents could actually be involved. It wasn't just a Looney Tunes movie. It was really Bill Murray had a big part. The baseball story, Newman. So I actually was really moved by the beginning sequences for how long it took to establish like genuine care for him as a dad. And even though that didn't come back in a huge way, right, for the kid to be an inspiring story, it really attached father to child in this context before Looney Tune land. Because once the basketball game starts, it's just antics for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
But the first half of the movie is actually a lot of different plot points moving this narrative forward.
It's weird. This movie's almost anti-Chekhovian. Like, it sets up all of these things and never pays off on fucking any of it.
Like what?
Literally everything. Everything that happens, there's no payoff. They don't pick up. Like, okay.
Like why there's a paperclip in Michael Jordan's ear?
Or why Stan needs to get Michael back to the game, get back to the baseball game that he never fucking goes back to. Like,
right.
And there was a scene they shot with Michael hitting a home run that didn't make the final cut. But like, if that happens and don't have Stan say, we've got 5 minutes to get back to this baseball game in fucking Birmingham.
A minor league was double A?
But yeah, Birmingham Barons double A. Yeah, it was the White Sox double A team.
I mean, the fact that Stan survives it all after the fall from the dugout onto what I assume is concrete.
I can categorically say there's never been a minor league dugout that wasn't concrete if you'd fallen off of the roof.
With his mass head first, I think Stan's dead.
Yeah.
Wayne Knight's killed. And so maybe this is just a fever dream the rest of the movie. But
I mean, I like this theory.
There is that weird subplot where like Wayne Knight is a yes man to this like
minor league baseball owner who is watching a game. Yeah, right. From the bleachers, or from the stands, right? Not from one of the 4 luxury boxes at this minor league stadium.
Right. So he is just incentivized as just an assistant to get Michael Jordan through a basketball game back to AA, where he will promptly return to the NBA and never contribute anything to ticket sales ever again. It is kind of a sparsely attended AA game for Michael Jordan.
Oh yeah, those games were sellouts.
Yeah, and this does not look like that.
Yeah. I can't remember. I feel like it was an article in The Athletic about 5 years ago, but they talked about like it was like an oral history type thing where they were interviewing people who were around for Jordan's minor league stint, and it was a fucking circus.
Josh, let me ask you this. This may have been brought up in The Last Dance. I don't remember. Did Michael Jordan deserve to be there?
In AA?
Yeah.
God, no. The fact
Where
that
would he have been?
The fact that he was thrown into AA and actually hit over 200 is like very impressive. He hadn't played baseball since he was like 16. And he steps in as a 30-something. I think he's 31 at the time.
Playing top prospects.
Playing
probably.
AA baseball, which like AA is fucking hard. AA is not easy. AA is like the first step where like, oh no, pitchers are fucking nasty and like they can actually throw for strikes.
You can go from AA to the majors in a week.
Yep.
And that continues to happen to this day.
Yep.
So where would he have better been suited for? Like a single A
he
team
should have been a rookie ball. He should have come. He should have come up. But the whole thing was they weren't going to put Michael Jordan in rookie ball because like they're riding like AA is already like way below his station. Like in terms of like this guy's a massive celebrity and he would the facilities in like low A or rookie ball in 1994 and 5 were like jaw-droppingly terrible. They were bad in fucking 2010. Like this was not Michael Jordan couldn't slum it that much.
Okay.
They weren't.
So he gets tossed. He gets tossed into.
He got tossed to the AA Wolves. Yeah.
Competitive league. Somehow manages to a decent average. I mean,
it was over 200. It was like 217 or something. I can look up. I'll look him up on Baseball Reference.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean,
he stole a bunch of bases. He didn't have a bunch of power, but he was fast enough. He was also 6'6", so he got up the line fast.
Yeah, and putting him in the outfield is probably going to take away some hits, I would imagine, with that frame.
Yeah, he hit 202, 290 OBP, 266 slug. He stole 30 bases in 48 attempts.
Yeah, I mean, not great, but not abysmal.
Yeah, I mean, at 31 to jump in and play baseball for the first time in 15 fucking years.
Yeah. So when the movie came out, he was on a hiatus before coming back.
No, he had actually already come back. He came back at the end of the 95 season. He came back in March of 95. So when this movie came out, he hadn't won.
Well, when the movie came out, but when the movie was being filmed.
When the movie was being filmed, he was already because I believe it was okay. So it took 19 months to shoot.
It said he was on a 17-month stint.
I think that he's right. I think that there may have been,
but he had already
production.
announced, I believe, that he was coming back.
Okay, but
sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
I definitely think that
he
has
they
the
wrote
downtime.
It around announcing his return.
Yeah, it seems like it would be kind of an arduous shoot, given the work.
But he played baseball in 94.
94.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a reference to 2 years earlier or a year earlier.
Yeah.
So he was in the NBA while he was doing baseball?
No, he retired. He retired after he won back to back 91, 92, 93. Retired after the 93 season when his dad died. His dad was kind of infamously
and the
murdered.
Conspiracy theory kicks in.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know that about his dad, man?
No.
His dad was carjacked and murdered.
Very sad story.
Yeah. in sort of the relatively rural North Carolina town that he lived in. He was like
Was
on
it a rest stop or something?
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, he was like two guys like carjacked him, stole his car, and I think
So,
they killed him in the trunk
I
or
feel
something.
like the beginning of the movie is honestly just like a chance for Michael to tell this story to his audience in it. Not really tell the story,
Yeah.
but give a
They're
little
not
bit
going
of
to
a
bog down a kids movie with
No.
with your father being
carjacking.
murdered. Yeah.
no. I'm not talking about his death, but like the reason that he's playing baseball is because he wants to be like his dad.
Yeah. But I also don't know. Like, I think his dad just liked baseball.
His dad didn't play pro.
His dad was never a pro baseball player.
No, sure. I'm just saying
Yeah.
the idea that he was probably motivated as a kid to become Michael Jordan. He attributes a lot of that, and this may just be written by the writers.
Yeah.
But I would feel like Michael Jordan being a part of the movie and it being about him and his life, that's probably stemmed somewhere from, yeah, I remember starting basketball as a kid, wanting to be great, but always wanted to play baseball like my dad, and that's why I play baseball now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be some reason he moved to baseball besides I want to.
I mean, the story was that it was his dad loved baseball, if I remember correctly. His dad loved baseball. He grew up playing baseball until the point where like it was clear that like he needed to commit all of his energy towards basketball.
It just is really opportune timing that this movie about him returning to basketball coincides really, really nicely with the Bulls beginning their second three-peat.
Yeah.
I mean, that is like you drew it up, when you first started pre-production.
When I was looking up what was going on during the break, if it was a break or not, it turns out, I don't know if you guys saw this too, he had an entire area built in Warner Bros. For him to practice.
This was a weird
the MJ Dome.
Yeah, this was a weird like legendary. This was a site of like these weird legendary pickup games where like Reggie Miller and like big fucking names, and I can't remember who. I know there was like a rando who like got to go to one of these games and play, and I can't remember who the fuck it was.
Like an actor?
Yeah, an actor.
Yeah, I think that was in Last Dance. I can't remember who.
Yeah,
it was.
it Woody Harrelson maybe?
Probably.
It probably was because he was just fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a weird like during the filming this on the lot basketball game was like total insanity. Like this,
it's like a Diddy party.
Yeah, only a lot cooler and without sexual assault happening probably.
Yeah. But just in terms of kind of clandestine legend status, like you wanted to be able to come to this thing.
Yeah.
Like if you could get an invite to Michael Jordan's private court on the Warner Brothers set, like you'd walk over a dead relative to get to it.
Right. And like he's fucking torching guys in this game.
He's big. Like he's this is kind of the thick Jordan era where he got really strong.
Yeah.
He got tired of getting bullied.
Yeah, he got tired of being pistoned.
Yeah, he got pistoned pretty hard, and like you see like this like I don't know, like Michelangelo's David version of Michael Jordan in this movie.
So there was a quote that someone got from Jordan. This is probably in The Last Dance, but in '95 when they didn't do well, he said to someone about why they did come back and do well in '96 was he didn't have a reason then. And he does now. And it was to prove that this other guy, I don't remember, you probably know, who was now the best.
Hakeem Olajuwon.
He was like, I want to prove that I can be the best again.
Yeah, the 2 years that the Bulls didn't win in the mid 90s. So the Bulls won 91, 92, 93, then the Rockets won 94, 95. And then the Bulls had already, because this comes out Christmas of 96, the Bulls had won the first of the second three-peat in the previous spring or previous beginning of summer. Because they won 96, 97, 98.
They won summer of 96. This comes out end of 96? Yeah. Oh, strange release. This definitely nowadays would feel like a summer release. Just in terms of like kids.
Yeah, it was
being out of school.
November 10th, 96. So yeah, they won the first of the second three-peat.
They're trying to get it up for the Oscars.
But that 96 season was the 72-win season, right?
Yes, with Rodman, where they just couldn't lose. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that kind of covers our.
Yeah. Sorry, we're getting lost in bullshit and should be talking
lost
more
in
about the movie.
NBA minutia.
So we asked you, what do you think it was about Space Jam that appealed to young Maayan? And you responded.
It still appeals to me now. It's leaving the real world to a beautiful, silly, imaginary world where you're on an adventure and nothing really matters, but everyone's fun and creative. You're lost there.
Did this still appeal to adult Maayan?
Absolutely, more than ever. And also, I was about to say this before you bring this topic up, which is the fact that the entire movie is about a dream. And I don't mean a fantasy dream, I mean a kid's dream in life, right? And so the entire movie is actually people seeking something for their life and then having the ambition to go for it. And that even includes the joke that Bill Murray really wants to be. I could be that guy. I could be the one. I could have been Michael Jordan for this return because there's people needing to fill that spot. And then there's all the sub dreams of, is it Bugs or who am I thinking of? I guess there's just a lot of plots to make some big change in the world or the universe, right? And how these competing forces are playing a basketball game with complete nonsense in order to achieve this dream.
Now, Maayan, you talked about last week what movies, like in general, kind of do for you, of like escapism and going into these new worlds and kind of being immersed in that, in the entirety of the film world. Do you feel like you are drawn more towards the kind of fantastical elements of a movie, or movies that are completely baked in reality with, no superheroes, no cartoons? Do you get as involved in those?
Great question, but you lost me when you say realism, but not fantasy. I'm not a huge fantasy person. I don't like weird, silly, different out there. Sci-fi is not really my cup of tea. But what is my favorite is like Coen Brothers. So it's realistic satire, silliness, but it's all caked in a realistic framework.
Okay. Yeah. And I don't mean fantasy in terms of like the genre, but just in terms of fantastical things that are too surreal to kind of happen in reality. This movie kind of qualifies as science fiction in a lot of ways. The extra worldness, the aliens, the futurism of it. But yeah, I just kind of like getting to the core of Maayan here. That's what we do. Yeah. You're on a couch. Yep. Might as well get psychoanalytic.
That scene with the therapist is actually fantastic. It's like, and you're saying I'm going to disappoint my mom? It's like, no,
very
you
good,
said that.
Very good central casting there on that shrink.
Yeah.
Like, we need a Freud type. I was like, oh, we got it.
I loved the amount of parallel storytelling that they do throughout the movie, where there's just this plot happening at the same time this plot's happening, and they jump back and forth. It was a really surprisingly nuanced amount of layering for a kids movie. I think compared to the Space Jam the new Space Jam, I was lost. I just bored out of my mind. But when I was watching this movie again, it really, I mean, don't get me wrong, the stakes are all very low. Nothing matters. But it really dives
does nothing matter? Like, they're going to be slaves, Maayan.
Okay, but they're
The
Looney
stakes are
Tunes.
pretty high. Well, Michael Jordan's going to be a slave.
Yeah.
Yes, and
the NBA will
he's
never
in
come back.
he's in
Think of the
chains.
thousands of jobs that will be lost if the NBA never returns.
that you're mixing worlds, right? Because there's a
No, we're just
fake
asking
world.
hard questions.
Yeah.
Yes, and hard questions are when you force two perspectives to have to look in a certain direction. That's always the hard question. There's no hard questions in life if you can change perspectives.
I mean, the NBA was able to continue in his interim, was able to continue after he officially retired the second time and the third time, post Washington Wizards.
Never forget.
Never forget. Let's spare just a second though to talk about the cadre of these other NBA players. I was totally on the presumption that they were going to come back and somehow save the second half, that Wayne Knight was going to somehow realize what was going on, get these guys through a portal. It was really surprising that they never show up in the cartoon world.
Yeah.
But also like that they just kind of hang around moping together.
Yep.
They have no families. They live apparently in the same city, which doesn't make any sense at all.
0 cents.
That 2 Charlotte Hornets, I guess maybe Bradley's playing in Washington at
Knicks.
this time. 2 Knicks.
Yeah.
Wait, who's the second Nick?
It was Grandmama, was. Oh no, he wasn't a Nick yet. Never
He was
mind.
Charlotte. Yeah, he was Charlotte.
And his
So
son.
yeah, Patrick Ewing.
So I have to ask, can you guys watch an episode of Looney Tunes? Like, as
I could
adults?
watch an episode of Looney Tunes. I was unable to watch this. I mean,
I'll
I
say
watched
this.
the whole thing, but it was a fucking chore.
I'll say this. This might, be. I think like some of the best jokes in this movie come from the kind of Looney Tunes world. Things that happen on the court are probably, are what makes the movie like watchable for kids, I think. But my favorite joke in this entire movie, where I actually laughed, was when Wile E. Coyote dropped the anvil and got
so
sprung
good.
back up.
Yeah.
Which has nothing to do with Space Jam.
No, but
Nothing.
That's
I loved-
archival footage, basically.
I loved the moment after. That was filmic genius for me, which was kids sitting
The
there
cutaway to the kids, yeah.
in their world watching a cartoon, and then
Where the
Bugs
cartoon
Bunny-
stops
or who was
because
it?
yeah.
Porky the Pig says, "We have to go. We're called to a meeting."
Right.
And then the cartoon they're watching in the world stays on the frame.
Yeah.
As if the show isn't being written or presented. It's actually an insight into another world.
Yeah.
It's like a live stream, and the framing stops because they're going to a meeting instead of staying in the show.
That's one of
That's
my
like
only
that meta joke.
one of the
That's-
only moments of the movie I actually like.
Yeah, there was some metaphysical stuff that went past about 99% of people's heads.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite movies is Shaun of the Dead as well.
Okay.
And it's the same type of humor that they do really well throughout Space Jam, which is physical jokes with the camera or with the idea that it's a movie. And so this happened also when Bugs is first introduced, and this is a Looney Tunes staple, is
Yeah.
that Bugs knows he's in the cartoon.
Yeah, he's breaking the fourth wall
And-
all the time. Yeah.
He's Deadpool.
He's breaking the fourth wall. We're all film people. And he walks, and he looks, and I forget what he said. Shoot, I knew exactly what he said to the people. "I'll be right with you."
It's about he makes a joke about intelligent life out there. Like
That one's
they're
later.
not being intelligent life out there. Oh, but yeah, he stops. Right.
He first just is being chased by Elmer Fudd, and he goes, "I'll be right with you folks right after I'm done with Nature Boy." And
I was really
It's
hoping
just-
to see Ric Flair, but no dice.
Yeah. That would
and
be
then
a
there's
great
The
movie too.
basketball video, that felt a lot like dodgeball to me.
Yeah.
Where they show to the Looney Tunes what is basketball. It's an old black and white NBA explanation video. I mean, I'm sure that was made. I don't, because every single shot they missed.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
there were
looked like
so
it was
many
made
just silly antics.
Just a little thing about that. It definitely looked like it was made for this movie. Just to kind of get into the weeds here and nitpick that, it should have been a different aspect ratio than how it was presented in the movie, and they did nothing to the audio to make it sound dated. So the audio came in crystal clear. It was like, these boys are playing basketball. It needed to have the tinniness and the gravel that you would expect from like a 1950s recording.
Yeah, from a newsreel. Yeah.
From a newsreel. Yeah, just a tiny little thing that, like, as a director who really, really, really knows film would go in and be like, this needs to be changed. And not something that a commercial director is going to bat a fucking eyelash on. So
So let's actually
tiny
talk about this, because I was watching a interview with Pika after, because I was like, I was thinking, who did direct this?
Yeah.
We all
And
thought that.
I'd like to talk about the different approach that a commercial person takes to a cinema movie maker. And I loved commercials growing up. I still love good commercials. And it's because the essence of storytelling is completely different.
Right. Yeah.
The essence of storytelling for a commercial is as quick as you can, make your point, right, in the most memorable way. And I think Space Jam as a movie is just a continuous ability. So like you were saying earlier, it's a long commercial, but your guys talking about that from the perspective of it's plugs. It's a bunch of plugs. It's money.
also he also did music videos. Like he did the Dirty Diana video. He did the Way You Make Me Feel video. So a couple big Michael Jordan or Michael Jackson. I think he did a Madonna. I know he did a Madonna commercial, but I think he did a Madonna video too.
He said he worked with the Beatles and Yoko too.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that
your favorite.
Yeah.
I think that
whatever.
Like, just to speak very generally, he's not going to sit there with an actor and work scene after scene, take after take,
or with a bunch of non-actors, because there is one two actors in this movie, really,
to try to get a performance. I mean, Bill Murray's going to do his own thing. Bill Murray probably doesn't need direction in anything that he's doing in this scene, in this movie. But if you have a long history of working with big celebrities in commercials, of working with athletes, of working with musicians, you are not going to get a nuanced, like, genuine performance from any of these people in Space Jam. It's not going to happen. Yeah. If they're going to get their lines right and they're not going to look into the camera, cut, print. And I think like that was a huge part of this. Like if we get a little bit of a joke or a little bit of a laugh out of Muggsy Bogues talking about his mom on the couch, great. But we're not going to ask Sean Bradley to, let's do it again, Sean. Let's do it again, Patrick. This time, I really want you to kind of tap into that you've lost all your powers, okay? You've been completely emasculated.
They're not getting into pathos with their
no, you're not sitting
athletes.
There. I think you're moving on as quickly as possible, and 90% of the characters in this movie you cannot talk to. They are cartoons. Whether or not you're in the audio booth with the voice of Bugs Bunny at the time. It's Mel Blanc is dead, so I don't know who took over all these, but that's not going to happen. So yeah, I mean, it is a struggle for me to kind of connect.
Billy
with
West
this movie.
was Bugs.
Okay, great. But like, yeah, I think it's a struggle for me to connect with this movie because I'm watching essentially non-actors do their best and cartoons. Like I it's hard for me to resonate.
So this has been a huge thing for me because I can't get my dad to enjoy cartoons. He just basically says he won't. And for me, that doesn't make sense because a cartoon is just the form, but like a story can be told through the,
Sure.
like I love Disney and Pixar. I think some of them are mediocre, but some of them are fantastic stories. And I'm curious, when you're saying watching cartoons is difficult, like for me, watching the cartoons in this movie was the good part. Like I was just like ignoring the real people because that was just the side piece to the story about Bugs Bunny.
This is a completely different I guess a completely different
Complaint.
complaint. No, well, I was going to say I don't want to compare these two because,
Oh.
but I'm going to have to in this sense. But Who Framed Roger Rabbit works for me on so many more levels than
Yep.
this because Bob Hoskins is such a good actor.
Yes.
He's so good and so convincing as Eddie Valiant, and that world in which they create that humans and toons coexist. There's so much more richness to that world than creating a world that we don't exist, but this crazy thing has happened, and now like Michael Jordan is brought into this world where he has to play by kind of toon logic, you know, like where his arm stretches for one reason or another to win the game.
Yeah.
Right. He's out there talking to tennis balls or whatever his eye lines are.
Oh, they
on the
had
set.
actual actors on set. In
Okay,
fully
like-
in green suits.
Okay, so he's talking to green suited actors, but he's not talking to Billy West.
He was. They actually had the talent with the voice on set to act against.
Okay, that's so bizarre.
Yeah.
But and a lot more expensive than probably they needed.
I mean, this was not
For
a
it
cheap
to be?
movie.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Curious.
but Michael Jordan is so limited by his abilities as an actor in this movie.
You're saying that Roger Rabbit is more rich,
For
right?
sure.
Yes, because
And I'd
the
love to
central
know,
actor is so much better.
Specifically, what do you find was rich? What moments or what way is it richer?
The
Because
movie is made for adults. This movie is made for kids.
I get that.
Well, and
I agree
I
with
think this movie plays like a series of music videos, basically. And there's like a detachment. I think just centrally, like the plot isn't just a series of set pieces. Everything that happens in the plot of Roger Rabbit is happening because of the thing that preceded it.
I will say its stakes of being a full-on movie are more captivating. But for me, because it's a bunch of vignettes, like I love vignette movies. I'm thinking of like Paris Je T'aime or The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Not that those are the same thing at all, because those are actually separate stories. But if they were all connected with just a paintbrush, right? You just put them all into the same world, even though they don't connect. I think that's a type of movie that still has a lot of richness. I think I watch kids' movies where I can't find any richness. It's just joke, 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 joke. But this movie to me has richness. It's just not trying to make an important storyline. Right? So
I
there's
just
a
want
lot
a
of richness.
cogent one, and I don't feel like I get that either.
I think Maayan, the big thing for me is Buster Scruggs, I think, is terrific, and the Coen brothers know how to cast really, really well. And you look at all those vignettes, and yeah, there's some like outlandish kind of surreal stuff, like with the bullets going through people, and you know, but like we have Liam Neeson and like Tim Blake Nelson. I mean, like the cast of those movies is so terrific. Here you have Michael Jordan's wife in a couple scenes. You have Wayne Knight as the C-3PO proxy. And you have Bill Murray, and they all orbit around this non-actor, Michael Jordan, who is just out there to be God and to be competitive and to never lose. It's really, really hard for me to kind of like go into that world when every time Michael Jordan speaks, it just kind of brings me out of it.
right there, that is the hugest difference you and I have watching this movie. I
Other than our
love
parkour skills.
that. I think you're about as close as me at parkour. It's okay.
Okay. I'll stay silent on that.
Our our view of Michael Jordan when he's talking, when he's present on screen, you completely lose disbelief, and I remain in or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
Whichever
suspension
that
of
works.
disbelief. Yeah.
Suspension of
My
disbelief.
suspension of disbelief. I believe that this is Michael Jordan, not a character. I believe that this is the actor Michael Jordan being, no, not the actor, the person Michael Jordan having to act in a silly movie. And I stay with that. And it doesn't take me out of a movie.
I think we're in agreement.
Yeah.
I think we're absolutely in agreement. And I do want to say that I really like cartoons, and animation can be many, many different things. I would definitely like to tell your dad to, like, watch BoJack Horseman or watch something that is, like, not necessarily like about a
or watch Up. Watch Up.
Watch Up.
Yeah.
For sure. Watch Wall-E. Watch some of these movies that are kind of like satirical and have a commentary, have something to say, and aren't necessarily built.
I think
around,
this
like,
movie has so much commentary.
I'm gonna completely disagree with that. Okay.
I mean,
well, okay, we can disagree.
Yeah.
But the whole movie, I'm like, wow, this is so insightful.
Is this commentary, Maayan, that you should believe that you can fly?
What do you mean? Oh, that I can fly.
The movie begins
yes,
and
actually,
ends.
Actually, yes.
But
metaphorically, right? Like,
yeah. Oh, for sure.
Can you live your dreams?
Right.
Can you beat the challenger? And the biggest scene, probably the reason that I actually love the movie, is the locker room scene.
It's the only scene that Michael Jordan for MJ, to me.
What?
That's the only scene that works for MJ to me.
And probably the closest thing that he's ever had to do in real life.
Yes. They do too much not grounding this movie in what MJ is good at. And then when they finally get a moment where, like, oh, this is the moment that MJ in real life would fucking, like, take everybody and, like, rally the troops or whatever, like, that moment when they finally give him that moment actually works. And so for me, as someone who's watching and is bored by everything Michael's doing as well, I know it's played for comic effect. I get that it's played for comic effect, but, like, this, when he's delivering the lines, you believe them. You like, this is something he's comfortable doing, and it's funny that it didn't work because they're tunes, but
no, that's not why it didn't work. I'm actually so passionate about this right now. The reason the whole actual message here of the movie is that Bugs Bunny, a fictional character who pretends to be something he knows he created, isn't real, is more inspiring than an actual legendary basketball player telling you all have it within you already. That is what we tell our kids, and it doesn't work. We say, you can do whatever you want. You're amazing. You do great. And no one goes anywhere. But who goes places? People who believe in fantasies. If you actually believe in the fantasy, if you drink the water and your brain believes the placebo that this is important, you can do anything. That's the whole message of the movie. And actually watching Pitka's interview, that's what he talks about. This has nothing to do with Space Jam. This has to do with his reason for making art, for a reason for being in film, and why he loved working with Michael Jackson is, you have an idea, you have to protect it. You have to fight for it with all you can. And it doesn't matter if it's not true. It doesn't matter if it's unlikely. It's the conviction that it's your idea and it did something for you, and that you have to share it. This is really a lot of what he said. I'm quoting almost directly. And I think I'm inspired watching literally every moment of this movie, because each joke is a hint of like that guy's living his own fictional fantasy, but it's taking him somewhere. And for me, that's a message that I get, and I'm enjoying to watch the whole time.
Now, I have a quote from 2016 in an EW piece. He said, "I thought the first Space Jam was a silly idea. I didn't know how it could become a movie, but it did." And I think that's where I just don't think this works as a movie. Like, I think
But like,
it's
okay, let's
like, I think Looney
philosophically.
Tunes, when you distill what works about Looney Tunes, they're like 6 minutes long. And this is 78 minutes a movie with 8 minutes of credits. And you don't have Michael Jordan doing anything in the real world until minute 7. You've already at minute 7 had young actor Michael Jordan setting up some tenuous like plot about like chasing your dreams that I don't think works, because I don't think we actually see Michael Jordan chasing his dreams ever.
To make your dad proud.
Yeah, to make your dad proud or whatever. But his dad never told him, "Oh, you need to play baseball for me." So that's kind of whatever. Anyway, but then after the kid scene in the very beginning, we get like a fucking 5-minute music video montage of Michael Jordan career highlights, which
I loved it.
It doesn't work for a movie. Like,
well, and the
It
editing
worked
the editing
so well.
the
is
editing's
very
bad.
dated too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a
I
couple.
was literally thinking how good the editing was.
It's very of its time. Very of
Exactly.
Yeah, but we
Exactly.
lived through
it's
that
not-
time, and it's not. I don't think it's time that I want to go back to.
There's like the record scratches kind of put in
Uh-huh.
the let's have fun with our kind of effects library on some of this. Like, let's distort to
Let's make sure to
like,
get a jock jam in there.
bass negative. Yeah, and we could talk about the music in a second, but like just aside from all that, yeah, the highlight stuff. There's actually what I found kind of funny about the highlights is like he steals the ball a couple times, which in Space Jam world he never plays defense.
Yep.
The only time that Michael Jordan plays defense in Space Jam, Maayan, is when he holds up Pepe Le Pew.
Uh-huh.
That is the only time. Even when it comes
a perfect gag, also by the way.
Even when I wrote this down, even when it comes down to the final play of the game, and Michael Jordan huddles the team together. Remember what he says? Does anybody remember what he says? Somebody steal the ball.
This coming from
steal the ball. The defensive player of the year
Yes.
at least a couple times.
Yes.
And get it to me. And then I will jump from half court and still slam it. But why not you steal the ball, Mike? You have to depend on Lola Bunny. Is this wait, just sidebar here. Lola Bunny, I think this is the first appearance for Lola Bunny. Yeah. Babs typically has been the girl bunny in Looney Tunes world. Do you know why she's wearing the crop top? Like, why she's the only one not wearing a full jersey? It's for her breasts. Like, something that, like, I'm just like, I don't know how much is this going over, but she's wearing essentially like a sports bra crop top. Because she has breasts. Okay, moving on. Yeah, I again, like, I think you're right. You're connecting, you're resonating with Michael Jordan. Like, live your dreams, overcome obstacles. But that is like that's just movies,
yeah,
as well.
Uh-huh.
Like, so much of movies is like there's high stakes, there's people at a low point, and then they have to do kind of incredible, almost insurmountable things to win, to come out as victors in the end, to win the day, and to like learn something about themselves. What does Michael Jordan learn from winning against aliens in a non-realistic world where his arm can stretch 60 feet?
At
that
least
will help him
35 feet, yeah.
That will help him in his return to the NBA.
I think the point of the movie for Michael I don't
Yeah.
think the director or the writing is around Michael learning anything. I think that's clear. That's not really part of his demonstration in the film. I think the biggest thing is you are sucking at baseball. Like, this is what it's supposed to be. You're sucking at baseball and you're sad that everyone's just pitying you and not taking you seriously. And at the end of the movie, you remember you're a basketball player, right? And I think that's actually supposed to reflect. I have a feeling during the script writing, they talked with Michael to get into the character to try to be able to put this. And his one core idea is just like, I feel like I lost myself. You know, after I had the three-peat, I don't know why I can't play the same I could. I lost my idea. I lost my reason for being great. And I think Space Jam is kind of a totally silly representation of an actual change that happened in Michael Jordan in the real world, which was I lost my competitive edge. And all I needed to do was remember why I had a competitive edge, you know, and I was trying to fight for my freedom, my ability to be the best that I could be. And even in that quote that I was referring to earlier, he said, I can't do anything about what people think who the best basketball player is. All I can do is go out there and play and try to show them. Right? He doesn't have control of that.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, if you didn't have to ground this in the reality of who Michael Jordan is and was, how about he does this Space Jam competition, and comes back and becomes a baseball player? Like, if you didn't have to ground it in reality, that he finds a competitive edge, and yes, he sucks at baseball, but he can get better. And he comes back to this game, and maybe, like, he gets that hit. Maybe he starts this progress, and maybe, like,
Well, they shot that.
pitying him.
They shot him coming back and hitting a home run, and then they cut it. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think, like, that's the path, though, that, like, it's not about stay in your lane and only do what you're great at and never risk anything, never challenge yourself. Michael Jordan coming back to the NBA is like, he's still
the best player in the world.
The best player in the world of all time.
It's a different type
returning
of
a fish to the water.
It's not returning fish to water necessary. I mean, no, it is, but it's the journey from one lake to another lake within yourself, right? It's I'm lost, but I lost myself. How do I find myself? And it's not about becoming great in the external world, overcoming baseball. The whole point is the dream of baseball was never his dream. That was someone else's dream. And he was trying to live that and failing because that wasn't his dream.
I think you need the writing to kind of come through there. I think you need somebody to pull the script aside. They had four writers,
screenwriters. Yep.
4 writers on this thing. I think you need that moment, Maayan, where you have him sit down, and whether it's to Stan and Bill Murray or his wife.
And this is getting to my Chekhovian point.
Which we never get. We never get that conversation with his wife, the most important person in his life, and says, you know what? ... Mad libs that scene and have him talk about, I need to return to the NBA because of X, Y, and Z. And the reason I need to do that is because this is what I've learned. And it can be 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
I don't want that because that's telling, not showing for me. The moment I saw the Bulls flash on the moment I saw the Bulls flash on the ground, I said, oh snap, Michael Jordan's back. That was the telling for me. I felt what happened inside Michael by seeing the Bulls stadium.
Maybe, but if you don't know what's going on in this real world, this movie just kind of exists in a time capsule.
Yeah.
And you pull it out and you're like,
what the fuck is this?
It's more montage from the beginning of the movie. Like, we have to know cultural context that Michael Jordan did return to the NBA.
Like, this has to work as a movie. You know, like this has to work as this little capsule of a movie, and it just
and
doesn't.
not as a companion piece to
So-
reality.
To Michael Jordan's
Which
Because
is what
because
it is
we've gotten
absolutely
to the-
functioning at. It's functioning as a companion piece, as the sidecar of the motorcycle that is running down the street. And the motorcycle is the reality of Michael Jordan's life, that he was amazing at basketball, that he stepped away for reasons both public and private, and that he returned to the NBA and dominated just as much, perhaps even more. Like
So-
that is something that you go into the movie kind of as a primer, knowing. And what I'm saying is, like, you shouldn't need to have that.
So now, to just meta look at what any kind of conversation like this philosophically is, we're debating the merit of an art piece, right?
Uh-huh.
And the curious thing here is if there is a disagreement in the merit as a whole for the movie, like this movie needs this, as opposed to the movie is set, it's finished. I'm curious what you guys think about the fact that if I am a human who can experience it, sure, I have a context, but if I can experience it and I'm satisfied, does the movie need more, or is it more true that it's just the movie needs more for someone in your context?
Completely that. Like, everything is subjective, right? Like, Rocky might be enough for me as a movie to exist, and I might get everything fulfilled in my life from Rocky. And then I could have a close personal friend who's like, I don't care about boxing. It doesn't really do anything. Stallone is just kind of a cliche. Like, that's the magic of the movies, is that Josh can like Mandy with Nicolas Cage so incredibly much, and his wife or siblings or whoever can have like a very passing like apathy towards it. You can love Space Jam for everything that Space Jam is, for everything that Space Jam spoke to you as a kid. And Josh and I can feel kind of apathetic and like, yeah, okay.
I
Like,
fell
it
asleep
was
like
a-
6 times watching this fucking movie.
I didn't fall asleep at all, but
Oh. That makes sense.
I mean, the jock jams kept me up for most of it.
I had to keep
But yeah.
rewinding. It was not fun.
We are not here to convince you any way other than how Maayan is
Yeah.
feeling. Like, we're not here to tell you anything that you don't know or to convince you to our argument at all. All we're doing is just reveling in how great of a world is it that we can sit here and have 3 subjective opinions
Right.
about this 1996 commercial.
And I mean, I yeah, a very long commercial, but no, it's really just like, I think it's interesting to explore if nostalgia is coloring the experience. You know, like I presume that I mean I would assume that if you saw this movie anew for the saw this movie for the first time now, you would have the same problems with it that you have with the new Space Jam, which you just said earlier was boring, and you couldn't stay engaged.
This movie, when you first saw it, this movie may have got you and like connected with everything that this little kid wanted and hoped and dreamed about, like working hard and like loving sports and feeling competitive in your own right. And you could have a whole history of like free of Space Jam, still loving cartoons, still loving SpongeBob, and come to this and feel like, like, I don't know, like maybe it doesn't hit you right in the heart the way that it did as a little kid.
Yeah.
And that's what it's kind of revelatory so much about this podcast, is that when these movies get us at an early age and they speak to us at an early age, we're with them the rest of our lives. Like, we ride or die with these movies. And I could say the same thing about like the Goonies, for example. Like when I saw the Goonies at whatever age that was, I was like, that's what I want. I want a movie where I want to be in a group of friends that have to go on this adventure, and somehow, against all odds, we not only like survive, but we save our community. We encounter a pirate ship and somehow pull our parents and our community out of financial ruin, like that spoke to me as a little kid living, lower middle class.
Yeah.
But if I saw Goonies today, fresh, off the boat, who knows? I might just be like, this is so silly. And like, these kids would be shot dead.
So I think beyond the fact that it's cool that we have subjective experiences, I'd really like to hone in. This has been my favorite thing pretty much in every field I'm kind of engaged in now, is the idea of emotional resonance. And that is not just if you're a kid, but if at any moment you
Sure.
emotionally resonate with something strong, it will carry with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
In a way that someone who isn't in need of that emotional resonance will not resonate.
Yeah. I mean, I think that happens all the time, like I'm still like, I mean, I just saw Anora and thought it was fucking amazing, and I can't stop thinking about that movie,
Which movie?
Anora. It won the
I don't
Palme
know.
d'Or
It's
this year. Sean
it's
Baker.
yeah, it's a new movie from Sean Baker, who did The Florida Project,
Tangerine.
and, I mean, no one's gonna know that, but Red Rocket maybe is.
I think Tangerine
latest.
was oddly very popular.
Really?
Yeah, it was a
Okay.
weird.
I saw
it's-
Tangerine.
Yeah, see,
But he's an LA guy.
but that's what.
I am an LA guy.
But he did. It's the guy who did Tangerine, which I loved. But this, I can't stop thinking about Anora, and maybe or like his earlier movie Starlet. I've watched like quite a few times recently, and they all sort of like connected to me in a weird way. Anyway, whatever. But like I think it's very easy to have things that like hit you in a certain way. That you definitely, because of whatever shit you're going through in life or whatever, like that it's super easy to have that movie hit, and then like that movie sticks with you in a way that another movie wouldn't have.
I feel like fundamentally we all have an identity that is based on either a feeling of connectedness or a feeling of separation, right? Either to a community, to a family, a partner, their self, their career, their dream. And really, the different possible relationships of connectedness and separateness can hit you if you're in that same amount of connectedness, right? So right now, I'm watching movies that I just absolutely hate cinematically and cry my eyes out because I'm a new dad.
Yeah, sure.
And there's such bad writing where I would have used to just say that movie was terrible.
Can you name names?
Inside Out 2. Inside Out 1, I watched and was like, this is one of the worst Pixar movies I've seen. It's still a good movie,
But
but
a
it
bad
just
Pixar
doesn't,
movie, yeah.
it doesn't have the full connection from beginning to end. It's like a weird Breakfast Club type movie.
So it's like Space Jam.
Wait, are you saying
Joking.
are you saying
I was
are you
just trolling with that.
Are you saying Inside Out 2 though?
Inside Out 2 was talking a lot about anxiety, and it was also about a young girl going through social, excommunication. And I have a daughter now, so I'm just picturing this is what is going to happen to her. And I have anxiety, so I'm figuring out kind of what that means for me.
I think for both those movies, and I liked 2 way less than 1, but like, I get that we're all kind of run by these core emotions. That's great. I love how they're kind of watching the world unfold. That's great. The whole like clunky world building of the marbles and these islands and what is contributing to those, and that is where those movies completely fall apart for me. Like, we have to know about these marbles and this color coding, and then there's like these deep recesses of dying memories. I mean, it gets really, really plotty in a way that it does not need to be for a Pixar movie.
I totally agree. And that is the thing that clouded my perspective of the first one. And I just was like, yeah, there are some cute moments. I rewatched it with my daughter, cried the whole time. and I was like, this is so good,
Yeah.
because all of the plot, all of the non-world building that should have been there wasn't where my attention was focused.
I think Josh and I have also kind of realized why you like commercials, because if you're kind of hypersensitive to kind of core emotions, a commercial's going to do that.
Yeah.
And fucking get the Kleenex box out when you hit the Super Bowls
Sure.
commercials, because those are going to hit you right in the Maayan sweet spot. Whether it's Budweiser or, I don't know, some little kid talking to their dad, like, you are hormonally in a susceptible position for those. And they have to tell a story. Like, that's the thing about a commercial, and that's the thing that Joe Pytka kind of realizes, is like, you tell a story in 30 seconds. You tell a story in 58 seconds.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think he's telling a story in 78 minutes.
Giving him 78 minutes is like,
Yeah.
What do I do with that? Which is why Josh brought
But
up
you have to
earlier.
realize there's an amazing impact here. I wasn't a basketball player. I was a fan. I wasn't a Michael Jordan statistical, and I'm sure I'm one of several 100,000 people who just have an iconic memory of Space Jam. And that's true for a lot of different movies.
I think the number's way higher than several 100,000.
It could be multi-millions, yeah. But I don't know how many like left it as a core identity as much as a movie they liked as a kid.
One of Jackie's
Right? Like,
Jackie's work husband in Austin was roughly your age and was obsessed with Space Jam. Still, like,
Yeah.
as an adult, like in
But
his early 20s.
it's different than Star Wars, which anywhere you go, there's a fanatic.
Yeah.
Space Jam is like, most people know it and liked it. How many people identify with it completely? Not that many,
Now
And you're saying you do.
comparably.
Now, you speculated that Michael Jordan wouldn't have just done this for the money, that there had to be an appeal to it for him to be in this movie. How much do you think he made as its star and an executive producer?
I could guess, but I'll let our guest go
Yeah,
first.
I don't know standards well enough. Based off
We're
whatever
talking
my brain is processing, I'd say
1996
3
money.
million.
What's that?
I said 3 million. I
Three?
don't
Okay.
even have a reference point.
Okay.
I'd say at least 20.
It was
20
20.
million.
It was 20.
Yeah. This is a
That's the equivalent
massive-
of $40 million today.
Yeah, and there were very, very few
The question
actors
is-
who were making that
How much money did he have before it?
a lot.
But we're still $20 million is $20 million. Like,
$20 million.
not.
He's
And I
doing
know
he's doing
that-
this for a paycheck, even if he's absolutely doing this for the money.
But look, when you have $400 million and you get $20 million, you don't have a thing planned to do with it unless you do. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, he's-
same now. If you have
He's got to gamble.
$500,000,
But also,
Think
this
of all
$20
the
million
bets that this is paying for.
that's a lot of quarters. But this $20 million paycheck, yes, you can kind of compare it to. I don't know if he's 400 million at this stage in life in '95.
He's probably
But
close,
let's say-
yeah.
Let's say he is, right? He's a half a billionaire. The $20 million that he makes from this does not exist in a vacuum. The $20 million that he gets from this, from being the star of a wildly successful movie, is going to beget him so many more of those millions of dollars in the future.
So-
It has put him on a stage and has put him into audiences that might not care as much about his return to the NBA that now suddenly do, because they took
But
their
you
kids to see Space
you
Jam.
have to understand, you don't go back to the NBA to be the best, to win the champion, to make money. You do go back and play to keep making money, but you don't go back to be the best because of money. Same with Kobe. Same with, if you look at Shaq, the way they talk, if you really watch, they have core beliefs that money reflects the greatness you do, not the strings you pull. And it's I actually in general, the greatest people on the planet have done horrible things, almost all of them, right? Gandhi apparently did a bunch of terrible
Gandhi
stuff.
was an awful dude.
So it's not necessarily but how did he become Gandhi in the local spirit, in our collective mind? It's because something great was done. He didn't successfully write his own memoir and then convince publishers to. There are people that get big like that, but most actually great people that stand the test of time, even back to someone like Achilles, right? Whoever inspired that story, whether it was a guy named Achilles or some random warrior that was very noble, something great was done, and that creates that momentum. You're gonna get the money, you're gonna sign the check. No one's gonna say, don't give me the money, but they're not doing it for the money. That's not the reason.
Because they have money. Let's say a 22-year-old, like on draft night, gets the opportunity. You sit down with him and you say, hey, do you want to make a 3-year contract with Utah or whatever? They're going to pay you, $5 million a year for 3 years. Or do you want to win a championship and then you're kind of done? And like, we'll pay you league minimum, but you'll win a championship. I don't think that there is a rookie who is going to take the championship. I think that the people that you're talking about that are worried about their legacy are all very, very rich already, which is why you have Gary Payton and like Karl Malone and Alonzo Mourning, who flock to kind of championship caliber teams over history of all sports, of people who rush to known winners to try to win a championship as a feather in their cap, but they are already very, very, very rich.
Yeah.
You're using examples, fine, that will support that theory, but there absolutely are people that would turn down the money unless, presumably, they have a serious family condition or goals with the money, that the money is more important to the championship. But there are plenty of people that have well-off families. They're not mega rich, but they have well-off families, and they will say, I'm in this for the championship. I want to be the best. Not many. That's a small percent. But I think it's talking to those people.
And is it like being the best, or, I mean, getting a ring or being a huge contributor? Like J.R. Ryder has a championship ring with the LA Lakers, right? Does anybody remember that he was an LA Laker? No. He won a slam dunk contest.
I love this, first of all, because this is really more of metaphysics and ethics, but fame is just as external a thing as money. I'm talking fame isn't the thing still. Winning a championship to the person whose dream it is to be the best is not about success. It is about not giving up. It is in order to carry out the vision. This is way more important to this archetype than getting money. And again, you're totally right. If I'm in a place where my family's in crisis, or my family I need to do these other things in my life, but when the only thing in your life is winning, right? These are people who are Olympic gold medalists. A lot of them do not do this for money. They are dedicating 20 years of their life, training as hard as possible. They just have a vision that they're going to win the gold medal. They get the gold medal, and then they're like,
well, I mean, they're all sponsored athletes, though. They're making
but not for a lot of the journey early on, right? And it is when how do you become a sponsored journey? When someone notices, oh, you're going for the gold, we're going to help you get there. It's really more that the sponsors are the ones that do it for the money, because they know by investing in talent, they're the ones who reap the rewards.
Yeah.
And so Michael Jordan, I think in this case, is just like that for Space Jam. I don't think Pitka is trying to make money he's obviously trying to make money, but he's making a piece that he's going to be proud of. It wasn't thrown together.
But can I throw back to the Pitka quote from 2016? I thought the first Space Jam was a silly idea. I don't know how it could become a movie, but it did.
I really am curious though, where that soundbite is from.
It's from a
Like,
2016 Entertainment Weekly piece about Space Jam on his 20th anniversary.
No, totally. And he's a serious artist guy in his head. He's a serious artist. And it was a silly idea. I'm not hearing, I don't know how I made it a movie. I'm hearing, I don't know how it could have been a movie, but we did it. That's what I hear.
I think perception is in the eye of the beholder on that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Josh is right.
Right. No. No, I'm definitely coming to this with a perspective.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think about this, right? Point of fact. Everyone does something for some internal reason. No one's doing it without something inside them, some core beliefs guiding why they're doing it.
Yeah, and sometimes
right?
it's a
Like
paycheck.
that's just a paycheck is not an internal reason. A paycheck is a label for a deeper reason.
Well,
Why do I want money?
Sometimes that is the need to have money.
No, but under that, the subconscious has to know that's either for rent and food and whatever, or it's because I want to buy all these things in the future. How nice do those look?
Or it's
those
I mean,
are the...
Michael Jordan's like the most brand conscious athlete ever.
But you're thinking of brand as terms of how to make money. So let me do another.
No,
plug
I think
here.
I think to him this is another thing that adds to his brand. I'm not like, but like
he's not a marketer.
No, but it's cultural cachet.
Yeah,
he's
but
like, oh, I can be a star in this kid's movie.
Cachet?
People will still buy my Air Jordans. Like 20 years later, he's still making like an absurd amount of money every year because of the legacy that he built on being the fucking spokesperson for everything.
How do you know he doesn't care about the money?
How could you possibly think he doesn't care about the money?
Because, okay, this is a really hard topic. People who have money don't care about making more money.
Wrong.
No, that's absolutely
wrong. People desire like the thirst of riches increases ever. Desire for knowledge like the thirst of riches increases ever with the acquisition of it. Can't remember who said that, but for whatever reason, that quote has always been buried in my mind. And it means two things. One is the more you know, the more you learn, the more you want to learn. But it also is very much tied in with wealth and greed. And the more that these people make, the more that they earn, the more money that they surround themselves with.
But wealth is not a number. Wealth is not how much money you have. Wealth is how much impact the amount of money you have is going to affect your life.
There's very few people in this world who are in the top percentile of richest people who have stopped caring about money.
You don't become a billionaire like Michael Jordan became without wanting more money.
The amount of goodness that Michael Jordan, that Jeff Bezos, that Elon Musk could do with their money, and yet they are always looking for ways to make more. They can't take it with them, but that has not stopped them from trying to exponentialize their wealth every single day that they wake up. That's what I feel.
Why do you guys want money?
I would like to be comfortable.
I agree.
Okay, are you comfortable now?
If you talk to my wife, no.
But are you comfortable?
I mean, yes, because I don't have to work.
Okay, so you are comfortable.
I should be working. So we're not doing well.
No, but are you uncomfortable knowing that your wife is in that position?
Yes.
Okay, so the real reason you want money is because you're uncomfortable in some capacity.
We're getting way far afoul of this is I need to rein us back in because Sean has like a 2:30 out.
Yeah. Let's talk about Space Jam for a little bit. We can get offline and sit over a beer and talk.
All right.
We should.
So throwing to the last clip, when I asked, do you think you'll still unabashedly love Space Jam, you answered.
I'm curious to see what you guys point out that makes me maybe cringe about it.
That's what we're here for, man.
But I can picture, I remember the whole movie. I believe I do. I think the cringiest part is the baseball scene when Michael Jordan plays baseball, and the guy who plays Newman, I don't know his real name from
Wayne
Simon.
Wayne Knight.
Wayne Knight. His character, upon analysis, I'm sure is really cringy, but upon watching is fantastic. I mean, it's a great character.
I wouldn't say he's cringy at all.
Do you
No, I
feel
thought
like
he
he's
was
a great
fantastic.
character?
It's a good performance.
Such.
I think it's a good performance. I think Wayne Knight does exactly what you're paying him to do in this.
I
like
think.
most of his roles.
I think. Yeah, like in most of his roles, for just a few minutes of real screen time, he's incredibly impressionable.
Okay. Do you feel like your view of Space Jam's been altered at all?
By rewatching, I would say it was reinforced.
Reinforced.
By-
Okay.
By
It's
talking
fortified.
to you guys, it gave me a new perspective on how many people. First of all, actually, I'm really curious to go watch the new Space Jam now
Ooh.
and try to see what a kid would like and how to not be clouded by my expectations.
See, this will be why don't you introduce your kid to the new Space Jam, and maybe you will have created like, you know, a Maayan situation where your daughter, right, has seen this new Space Jam, and it may have the same effect as when you, as a little kid, saw the first Space Jam.
I'm happy to do that, but honestly, it's already happened. When I first watched Moana, I had a lot of. I just really didn't care about it. My daughter is obsessed with it. It's the only thing she talks about. I've watched it 20 times. But when I rewatched it for the first time with my family, with her, I thought it was perfect. And I was like, how did I miss this? How did I miss the perfect film?
You didn't have a way in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Sean, you said that Maayan's enthusiasm for Space Jam made you excited to see it. Did his joie de jam set your expectations in a realistic realm?
I mean, no, but that's only because that Maayan is new to me, right?
Yeah, sure.
Like, I don't know where he's coming from. I don't know his. I mean, like, him being stoked about this, great. I love an enthusiastic guest. And certainly, I think what we found here in this podcast, like post rewatch, is that sometimes you need to have like a couple people come at you, like not personal, but like come at your views of a movie to see your defenses, to see where you stand, and to like dig.
Yeah, to either dig in or concede ground. Yeah, one or the other. But
to kind of like if we're not poking the bear, like the bear's maybe not going to growl.
Yeah.
You know. So I like the experiment. We're not doing this to play contrarian.
Right.
Oftentimes, you know, we are very much in alignment with our guest. But yeah, I mean, there was a reason though. There had to have been something that I knew when this movie came out. Being an NBA fan when this came out, that I knew that this might not speak to me. Right. I don't know what it was. It was probably something in the trailer.
Did you go to Blue Chips? Did you see that in the theater?
I definitely saw Blue Chips.
Okay, same,
Blue Chips.
same.
But that's a college basketball movie,
right? But that was sort of speaking more to, I think, where we were at within our relationship to basketball at the time.
Yeah, and I don't think I have no real affinity for Blue Chips.
No. But it says like what sort of basketball movie we were looking for at the time that Space Jam came out.
Exactly. There was probably something in me that was like, this movie is not made for me. This movie is not made for somebody my age, maybe. This movie is made for kind of kids.
Which is fine. I mean, I don't expect every movie to be made for me.
And maybe there was some self-preservation thing too, where it's like, I don't want to see the NBA kind of through the prism of this Looney Tunes world in much the same way that a few years earlier, very much a Nintendo kid, I did not want to see the Mario Brothers movie.
Right. Same.
I did not want to see something reduced to wide audiences that I liked, that I was protective of. I mean, that's probably getting into some psychoanalytical shit with me.
Right. So moving on to picking up the scraps, is there anything
Yeah,
we've missed that anybody wants to talk about?
I mean, real quick, the music is ridiculous that we begin and end with R. Kelly.
And like
I'm-
they're lining up future victims, right? Like
Right.
R. Kelly is lining up future victims by bookending this fucking movie with his song.
We have Pump Up the Jam. We have the Seal version of Fly Like an Eagle, the
Yeah.
Steve Miller song. We have Hoop There It Is, of course. But like this, it is such a pulse reading of where we were musically in the mid-90s when you just look at the soundtrack to this sucker.
Yeah. And I mean, this movie is not going to go with like Oasis and, you know, the sort of British invasion of the 90s or anything like that. It's not, that's obviously not what this movie's like target audience is. But yeah, it's very of the time in a way that I don't think either of us who lived through it look back fondly at.
I've mentioned that they drew breasts in for Lola Bunny. Okay, just making sure.
Yep.
Okay, so
no,
this is a I know it's kind of taken for granted because Looney Tunes itself is so established. But one thing we didn't touch on, and I wonder if you guys are more into this for more adult real movies, is the cinematography. I think that it's pretty standard, but it's also well done. It's not like a crappy quality movie. It's at least competes with public Hollywood movies, as opposed to like bad movies that just like, how did this, oh my God, I don't know what you guys thought about Detective Pikachu, but like I couldn't watch that cinematographically. It was so
yeah,
anyway.
I mean, like there are shades to kind of the effects of this movie. I didn't really, the cinematography is kind of difficult to describe here,
Right, because so much of it's
it is
happening in Toonland.
Yeah, so much of this is coming in post-production.
Yeah.
That they're mostly on kind of studio sets with green screens and various,
This at the time was
amenities.
the record holder for most composite shots at over 1,100 or over 1,000, and then the most effect shots it was approximately 1,100 effect shots in this.
So it's not really a gripe what I'm going to say,
Yeah.
but like there are shades to this. Like I think for the most part it works when they're playing basketball. The things that don't work are like when Michael Jordan gets folded into a basketball, right?
That one was pretty bad.
Or when Wayne Knight gets inflated into a balloon. Those are really weird, like
Those were
somewhat
weird.
disturbing
Yeah.
images that like the CGI budget could not kind of crack. There, like I think the first time that we go to Moron Mountain or whatever, it felt very much like a theme park ride. Like we were watching some kind of like
we were watching the
pseudo-
opening, like the coming, or when you're at the movie theater on the roller
You're at the
coaster
movie
going,
theater.
yeah, that.
Yeah, like a step beyond that, where you're at some theme park going through the volcano, and like those felt really dated and really cheap. And yeah, I think for the most part it works, but there are those exceptions that are like somewhat troubling to watch.
Yeah. Wayne Knight balloon was not fun to watch.
That was gross.
Yeah.
So do we want to do? What do we want to do here? We want to do scraps? If we did scraps, we want to do.
Yeah, we can. Jim Rome, really?
Yeah.
We needed Jim Rome in this. This is not something that Maayan would know or care about, but as two like sports fans from the 90s and into, I mean, Jim Rome's still on Fox, I think, or he was at least a couple years ago. But like, I really didn't need Jim Rome in this.
It's kind of like writing Jay Leno into a movie where he's doing a monologue about like what's happening to the characters.
Yeah, don't need that either.
Don't need that. Yeah.
So which one is this? Who's Jim Rome?
Jim Rome was the sportscaster talking about how bad Michael was at baseball that his kids were watching on TV. He sort of famously his thing that made him rise to national prominence was he kept calling Jim Everett, the then Rams quarterback. He kept calling Jim Chris Everett, of course, being women's tennis legend Chris Everett, and he kept calling Jim Everett Chris in the interview to like troll him, and Jim Everett like jumped over the table and beat the shit out of him.
Well, he I don't know if he beat the shit out of him.
He punched him. He threw a punch for sure. And Jim Rome fell out of his chair. This is on a stage. Like,
he flipped the table. He flipped the table, and this 6+ whatever, 200+ whatever quarterback came after this. You fuck around and find out, kind of. But yeah, I mean, there's some things that really, like the score, like the soundtrack, really kind of put this in the mid-90s when Jim Rome was a talking head that people knew about. Now they don't.
Okay, so major gripes, starting with our guest, if he has one. Maybe he doesn't.
Let's see, major gripes with the movie. I mean, if I were to compare it to what it could be, it has a lot of room to grow, right? Like it's a pretty simple story. The basketball game is so silly. You're wading through like a few gags to get to the locker room scene. And then I, as a kid, really loved the extended arm. I think there's something that plays to like you being a kid that wants to be great, that just like, how cool would it be if I could dunk like Michael Jordan? And this is the ultimate Michael Jordan dunk. It's like past half court. It's like from the opposite free throw line, and you're held down by two monsters and you still dunk. And I actually cinematically really liked that time dilation that happened. It's like 4 seconds, but it takes 12 seconds.
Yeah.
And so that was both a gripe in that it could have been a much bigger climax that actually mattered, but I still think it works. It just knows that it's a small story with silliness as the focus.
Sean, what's your major gripe?
The movie orbits around a guy who can't act, and the story is just kind of muddled and lost, and we don't really get a true concrete message that can kind of be isolated to one quick sentence. I mean, Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan. He's the most famous athlete on the planet at this point. It's just real tough for me to kind of watch a non-actor for 78 minutes.
So I'm curious, Sean, you compared it to, well, I introduced Roger Rabbit and you compared it and said that you liked it. Can you compare this to any movies that succeeded in your perspective that are a kid's sports movie like this?
Bad News Bears.
The original or the new one?
Yeah, the original I think works for the most part. I mean, I don't know. There's like, I like sports movies. Rudy, for example, that's very much ensconced in a real story, but I don't know who could have a real big problem with Rudy. It's kind of the exact thing you're talking about. A kid that's told he can't do anything, can't do this. You'll never do this. You'll never do that. You're too small. You're 100 and nothing, 5 feet nothing. Somehow playing on the biggest collegiate football program in the world at that time.
But Rudy still feels like an adult movie to me.
But it's it's rated PG.
No, totally. But I'm talking about a movie that's targeted for kids.
I definitely went to that as a kid. Like, we just saw that in the theater at 12.
I get that. But I
think the target audience is absolutely is the target going for the PG rating. The target audience is kids. I mean, it's not dealing with kids as the like athlete necessarily, but like every kid that went to that movie grew up watching that kid Rudy in Goonies, and like I don't think most people are going to that movie without like a relationship to Sean Astin.
See, but I think even right now you're talking as like 11, 12, maybe older.
No. I'm talking as the kid who that movie was targeted to.
But how old of a kid? I'm talking about like 5 and 6 year old movies that succeed at the level that Space Jam failed. So I think Bad News Bears is actually good.
Like movies that are centered around 5 and 6 year olds.
No, where the
that are targeted towards 5 and
silliness-
6-year-olds.
Yeah. Because like the Monstars is not for adults, right?
No.
Those are such crazy characters. Those are for kids. There's nothing about
Yeah.
them that we like.
I would even say like this movie is probably maybe a little too scary for 5 and 6-year-olds, depending on your kid. I mean,
But this is
movie's made
definitely
for-
sub-teens.
Yeah, 8 to 12, easy. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a list of cinema in front of me, but like, most Disney movies over time, I think, are successful. A lot of cartoons are successful. Pixar, I think, is successful pretty categorically. I mean, I have my nitpicks,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think a lot of that stuff
Sean's a
works.
huge
I mean,
Cars fan.
huge. Okay, I'll abstain. Yeah, I mean, the fact that here's something that like you can put kids in movies, and this is what parents will say a lot. They'll say like, I like this show that my kid watches because they write enough stuff for the adults.
Like Bluey.
Yeah. Or there's like, I don't think any parent is gonna like defend to the death Coco Melon or whatever the hell that show's called, right? That is like baseline reptile brain. This is what your kid wants over and over and over again. This kind of droning language, this type of like sing-songiness in the voice, the repetition of that show. I think that like is actually worse for kids than just throwing them into like something that is beyond their comprehension that they have to level up to understand. Like have them watch The Muppets.
Yeah.
The Muppets. There we go. There's an example.
That's a perfect example.
That's made for kids. I'll watch The Muppets all fucking day long.
If I watch a Muppets movie I haven't seen, I have a similar reaction that you guys had to Space Jam now. If I watch a Muppets movie I watched when I was a kid, it's the same as Space Jam. They're equal to me. They're both genius the whole way through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that type of stuff that is maybe at least going into production, they're like, this is going to be mostly for kids, but they write enough stuff for the adults. Like the stuff that for adults here are like, what, a Pulp Fiction joke?
Yeah, what the fuck?
Like that's kind of out of nowhere.
And then it's just references to fucking commercials.
Yeah, there's like a strange, hyper-referential, very cultural mid-90s.
That is a timestamp.
Pulp Fiction. And also, like, we could talk about, like, if you were to make this movie today, what you couldn't get away with.
Let me get my major gripe out of the way real fast.
Yeah, go.
I hate this movie. It's fucking bad. It's just bad. It's not a movie. Like, my problem with this movie is that it's not a fucking movie. It's a series of vignettes that are cobbled together to, like, be in the form of a movie in terms of runtime, but that is fucking it. Okay, go for it, Sean.
Josh is also madder than me because he had to watch this for another podcast.
Yes.
This is not a single ounce different than the reason Josh doesn't like the Beatles.
No, I can at least admit that the Beatles are like, I don't know, good musicians.
Competent.
They're not for me.
I think it's all about
you think that there's a
ideology.
consensus that Space Jam is a good film? I don't think there is.
No, I think that
curious.
there is a difference here because there is a pretty big consensus that the Beatles are one of the greatest rock bands of all time. I'm actually a huge Beatle fan. This is where Josh and I disagree. But I know that Josh has a problem with the Beatles. I know that Josh, like...
I tried to give them another chance in like 2016. I listened to the whole catalog and just not for me.
Well, that's a mistake.
Yeah, you don't need to listen to Yellow Submarine at all. But yeah, I mean, let's not go.
But this isn't about the Beatles.
But no, that's another podcast.
It should be though.
It shouldn't.
Saving Graces. I mean, can we do real quick?
Yes.
Saving Graces.
Or is this movie fixable for today?
I mean, they tried to do it, right?
Yeah, and Maayan said it didn't work, and I'm never going to see it, so I don't know.
Well, also, I do think that it does rely on being youthful and into that icon. I'm not a LeBron James fan. I like LeBron James.
I don't need to see
enjoy
LeBron
watching him
James
watch,
acting ever.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
I would be really, really surprised if you made this movie for today, whether it's the new Space Jam or whether it's the next Space Jam, if Yosemite Sam flashes a gun on the court like he did in this.
Pulls a last Boy
It was
Scout.
it was really funny. It was a very quick scene.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there's a scene where Marvin the Martian shoots his laser gun through Sylvester, but there is a moment where Yosemite Sam's playing defense and he's just wildly swinging a revolver in the air. I'd be lying if I said that didn't make me laugh.
Okay, Maayan, what's your favorite moment of the film or element?
Ooh, my favorite moment or element. Yeah, my favorite moment is the takeaway of Michael's secret stuff. And I actually think that there's a cool kind of commentary on why Michael is great. And that is, there's nothing special about Michael Jordan. What makes him special is when he drinks water, he believes it's special, right? When he's on the basketball court, what makes him Michael Jordan is he believes he'll win. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. It's the belief that makes
So, like
all of the
delusional
people. And
psychosis.
actually, I really loved that Bugs Bunny is like such a psychological expert on marketing that when Michael Jordan is giving a talk and Bugs Bunny knows this isn't going to work, but I know it will work. And he goes, and this is what Pitka is, right? Because as a commercial, that's what it is. I go get normal stuff. I prey on the pain point, and then I just throw a crappy label over it, but it's the right words. And then I show a desired result that none of them will actually get, but it inspires them to actually win the game. So in a certain sense, through lying, in order to sell the product, it achieves the desired result of helping the people not go into servitude.
So
As Josh said
advertising is
earlier-
the salve for the potential of being enslaved.
Well, yes.
I'm joking.
No,
I'm joking.
But if you
I
think
just
about,
wanted to take
if you
that
think
in
about-
a weird direction is all.
if you think about Pitka, right? Or even if you think about any celebrity that has to focus on money in order to build their career, many great actors, I think a good person would be Joaquin Phoenix, to talk about how he knows he's got a platform. It's not just success, it's success for a reason. Or U2, whatever his name is. I almost said John Bon Jovi. Bono, yeah. So I think there's something really special in this movie, which is that it is a bunch of people who know they're in a world where you have to fight in order to win and you have to pull strings in order to win. But if you have a dream, it is going to make you win, and it is going to inspire people.
Sean, what's yours?
Well, Josh, you said earlier that one of Michael Jordan's best moments was his halftime pep talk. In keeping with that, they probably should have written a scene where he's like cussing out Foghorn Leghorn on the court.
Yeah.
Like really angrily.
Trash talking.
The way that he would like yell at Rodman or something. I don't know, man. I did think it was kind of a nice joke when the other NBA stars encountered the best fortune teller in cinema history. And they couldn't believe her at all. She told them exactly what she was seeing. I mean, there's a good joke right there, right? Sure. Like, you could have done a lot more with that kind of stuff. But really, I mean, I said it kind of at the start of this thing. Wile E. Coyote rocking across a tightrope with an anvil, gets down, drops the anvil, looks at the camera a second before the spring, but before the springiness of the bungee kind of retracts. I mean, that's a gold joke. I will laugh about that in my 40s. I will laugh about that as a 5-year-old. I will laugh about that in my 80s.
I did not laugh at this other joke nearly as much back in the day. I think I was like, what is he saying? But when he's digging the hole, Newman, And the guy goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm fixing a divot."
Yeah.
Which isn't the joke. That's not the joke. The joke is that the other guy turns around, walks away, and is happy with that explanation.
Yeah.
And he goes, "He's fixing a divot."
Yeah, you definitely want a divot-less golf course, especially a green.
Yeah.
As a paid member.
All right, my
Josh?
favorite moment is Bill Murray wearing a St. Paul Saints hat, which I'm wearing a home alternate St. Paul Saints hat right now.
Yeah, that's a
he used
Homer
to
pick right
own.
there.
He used to be a part owner of the St. Paul Saints.
You could argue that Bill Murray is advertising in this movie.
He is.
Because he is.
He definitely is.
He is hawking something that he has ownership of.
Maybe another core memory for me that I haven't shared yet that this movie definitely attaches to is that I met Bill Murray at a basketball game for the NCAA 2004 championship in St. Louis.
Okay.
And I shook his hand, and I was tiny. I think I was 11 or 12. And I said, "You're Bill Murray," just like shocked. And he goes, or I go, "Hello, Bill Murray." He goes, "Hello, muscles," because I was tiny. And I just like, hold on. Bill Murray made a joke at my expense.
Mm-hmm.
I exist in the world of Bill Murray.
Right on. I mean,
Yeah.
That's a fun, formative experience.
Yeah.
And he's from your favorite movie or one of your favorite movies. It feels like it's your favorite movie, having sat here for the last hour, 2 hours.
Has it only been that long?
Yeah.
The
Okay.
truth is, any movie that you'll find that I like, I will talk about at this level.
Yeah.
And defend it with my life.
Yeah, and you probably won't have to defend every one of them. I mean, there was others on your list that Josh and I probably liked.
Yeah,
I won't have to defend them from you, but I've defended them from a number
sometimes,
of people. Lord of the Rings.
Maayan,
Fantastic.
sometimes we'll be on your defense. You know what I mean?
Yes, good.
Yeah. Not this time though. Okay, so Maayan, you returned to Space Jam. Pretty confident that it'd hold up. Did you come out of this recording hating Michael Jordan?
Oh no.
Okay.
I think you guys could have shared a lot more details that made me not be as impressed with him.
I mean, we don't need to go into The Last Dance. Watch it.
It's worth a watch.
Yeah, it's worth a watch.
I'll watch it.
Yeah, it's really good. Okay, so before we say goodbye to listeners at home, where can they find you, Maayan?
I live here in California. You can
online.
You can find me on Instagram at coach_mayonnaise and on TikTok at o.maayan.o.
Well, Maayan, thank you.
There it is.
Thank you for subjecting your childhood to the scrutiny of the Unkind Rewind.
It's time to bounce out.
Yeah.
Should I do a backflip on my way out?
Yeah. Make sure it's on camera.
Okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, let me go first. Oh man, I would need so much PT just to do that.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Maayan.
Thanks, buddy. That was
Thank
great.
you guys.
Yeah,
that was fun.
It was fun hearing from a real Space Jam stan.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go find more and increase our numbers.
Well, you're making them.
Yeah.
My worldview right now is that 33.33% of the population likes Space Jam. I'm gonna need to go up my percentage.
We might not even disagree on that number, but it doesn't mean that they're right.
No, yeah.
All right, thanks, Maayan.
Thanks, you
bud.
guys.
All right.
You've just listened to another installment of the Unkind Rewind podcast, mining and potentially ruining your childhood for content, one film at a time. Unkind Rewind is a Munchcast production and can be ingested wherever you listen to podcasts and on the Unkind Rewind YouTube channel. Music for this and every other episode of Unkind Rewind was composed by Divorcio Suave. Rate, review, like, and subscribe to Unkind Rewind on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and Good Pods. Links to all our social media accounts are in our show notes, but you'll find us as at Unkind Rewind Pod on nearly every social media platform, all of which are available at our website, unkindrewind.com. If you have a question, concern, complaint, or feedback, you can email the podcast at unkindrewindpod@gmail.com or call into our call-in line, area code 507-479-6440, and leave a message that can be played on air. Fans should join the Munchcast Discord to discuss this or any other episode of the Unkind Rewind with like-minded people. This dialogue may just make it into a future episode of the pod. The Unkind Rewind Patreon will be coming soon, so start squirreling that pocket change away. Thank you for listening to another Unkind Rewind.